All right, well, I am excited about the message that I'm going to be bringing this evening. This is a new teaching that I've done. I have not done this teaching before, and I believe this teaching will solidify in a lot of people's minds exactly what the point of the Messiah's return is. You know, if you look up, you'll see the Final Return Conference. That name the Father gave me has a multiplicity of meanings. From the final return of His people coming back to the covenant, from the final return of the Messiah, from the final return of children coming back to their parents, and husbands and wives coming back in covenant with one another. I mean, everything in the Bible is about teshuv, is it not? It's about returning. It's about coming back. Today I asked in my breakout session, what does the word repentance mean? And most everyone said, turn their back on sin, turn your back on sin. That is the Greek definition of teshuva or repentance. But the Hebraic definition of teshuva or repentance is not turning back on sin with the emphasis on sin. It's turning our back towards the Creator from which we walked away from. And that's what this conference is all about, is the final return of all of those things. And so let me ask a question to you out there. What is the entire Bible about? What is the entire Bible about? I mean, I'm kind of a macro guy. I love to kind of look from a bird's eye view and teach the Bible from a macro point of view, because if you don't understand from Genesis to Revelation from a macro perspective, it's impossible to zoom in and understand what it means on a micro perspective. Is this making sense so far? Good, because I haven't even started. So anyway, here's what the entire Bible really is all about. The entire Bible, you can start my timer, please. The entire Bible is about this: covenant. It's what it's all about, is it not? It's about, in more retrospect, it's about a marriage contract, a ketubah. It's all about a husband and a wife. That's the way it starts, ladies and gentlemen, and that's the way that it ends. So if we would understand what a marriage covenant is all about, if we understand the whole concept of a husband and wife and spousal and everything that happens in that whole, even the feast days are all about that marriage contract, we'll understand our Bibles. But what I want to propose is another question as we walk through here. The second someone makes vows inside of a marriage covenant, what is the enemy going to try to do? What is his job the day after you get married and you make those covenant vows? What is he going to try to do? He is going to try to break those marriage vows that you made. See, understanding that from the very beginning, husband and wife, when they come together in that wedding ceremony, there was a covenant that was made, and those covenants have rules. You all said it. You walked down the aisle, you said, I, Joe, will take Cindy Smith as my lawful wedded wife, and for all and so forth. When she's sick, I'll be good to her, and all those good things. And you said, I do. Most of you can't recall at all what you said, except for the I do part. And let me just, now you'll laugh at this, because for those of you that have been married 14 years, and I know this, when I got on my wedding day, I didn't care about anything that was going to happen for the next 30 years of my life. The only thing I knew is I was in love with this woman, and I wanted to marry her. I had no clue what I was getting into. I had no idea. How many did not know how messed up you were until you got married, right? All right? How come only the guys' hands are up? But that's what covenants do. Did you know that? When you enter into covenant, you are coming in faith. When you were at the bottom of this aisle, you came in faith. You had no idea that there were going to be covenant rules, restrictions, and instructions to make that covenant work. Until one day you wake up and your wife says, honey, why did you take the cap off the toothpaste and leave it off all night? Do you realize I can't get it out now? That was a Torah rule she just created. But the enemy, as you begin to make covenant rules and restrictions, as you made that covenant, you start learning those instructions, the enemy wants to pull that away and break the heart of that covenant. That is his job. Break the commandments. That's what he did in heaven. That's why he was thrown to earth. And that's what he's trying to get every one of us to do, is to break the covenant. So I'm driving this into the ground because I want you to understand that from Genesis to Revelation, it's all about the wedding vows. Get rid of the idea of commandments, laws, whatever you want to call them. Folks, in the simplicity of Jim Staley, who didn't go to college, they're wedding vows. That's all he's looking for, is his bride to honor her wedding vows. When you came to know the Messiah for the first time, that was the moment you stood in front of the Father and you said, I do. You are saved through faith, not of works as any man should boast. But like James said, show me your faith without keeping the wedding vows, and I'll show you my faith by keeping the wedding vows. That's what it's all about. The number one plan of the enemy is to keep you from keeping your wedding vows. It is a fight for the bride. That's what's going on right now. It is a fight for the bride in history. The entire Bible is about the Creator and his arch rival fighting over the bride. One trying to get the bride to keep the marriage vows so that she'll be protected and blessed, and the other one is trying to get her to forget about the covenant so that she'll be cursed. That is just flat out the way it works. You know, I was taught my whole life that the law was only given on Mount Sinai when he says, I set before you. It's kind of like 10 Commandments, right? Blessing and curse. Where do we get the idea that God speaks like that anyway? It's got the whole, you know, it's kind of strange. Moses looks just like Charlton Heston, I'm sure. But that's not the first time he said that. When was the first time he said that? In the garden, what did he do? He said, if you eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, you will die. If you eat from the tree of life, you will live. Is that not the same thing as saying, I set before you tree and tree? Eat, live. Don't eat, live, eat, die. It's the same thing. Blessing and curses all throughout the wedding vow system. It's a covenant. So here we are in the Garden of Eden. You didn't know that this is 1980s. Green and purple hair, Garden of Eden there. It's a large apple, but that's probably a good thing. Anyway, God gave them personal instructions for the covenant in the garden. Gave them personal instructions. I set before you blessings and curses. And what did the enemy say? He didn't really mean that. Do you realize the enemy only has one trick up his sleeve? We think he's a genius. He's not real smart. I mean, he went against the Creator. I mean, for crying out loud, he was probably there when he created the universe. And he went against the Creator of everything. So he can't be that smart. He has one trick up his sleeve. What makes him appear to be so smart is he is very good at that trick. Anybody ever see a magician? I mean, they're really good at the tricks that they do. So much so they can do it right in front of you. And you'll swear that no, it can't be it's right here, it's under this one. You watched it go around. He even slows it down so that you feel real dumb. You say it's here, and it's never there. Because they're really good at making those balls be invisible or whatever they do. The enemy has one trick, and his trick is this, is to get you to believe that the Creator did not mean what he said. If he can get you to believe it, he has one more trick. He can not only get you to believe that Yahweh did not mean what he said, his next trick is to get you to believe that it was his idea to change what he said. And he's done a real good job of that, wouldn't you say? Hopefully, his days of his tricks are being exposed in the light.